A lot of people are pressured to do what they don't want to do, but nobody's calling it peer pressure because we think that peer pressure is an exclusive preserve for teenagers. When was the last time you heard that peer pressure would kill you? I'm sure it was when you were around say 13 or 14 or 16, and somehow immediately you clock 20, people just believe that you should have sense.
I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end,
On this video, I want to talk about peer pressure and adult. When you hear peer pressure, what comes to mind? For me, I used to think about my social studies textbook. Like that topic, peer pressure was plattered all over from beginning till the end. Even if they were talking about the kind of food to eat, they would somehow infuse peer pressure in it because of the belief that the adolescent stage is very difficult because a lot of teenagers are just transitioning from childhood into puberty and from puberty into adulthood. So there's this belief that there's a lot of confusion going on in their minds. They will be because they might not know their right from their wrong. They might be tempted to do what is evil. They might be tempted to want to try out sex. They might be tempted to want to try out alcohol, this and all of those stuff. If there was a house that had a lot of teenagers, it was a normal thing. It was normal to always talk about peer pressure. The funny thing is, when I think during our morning devotions, even if my mother was teaching us about Ezekiel, Ezekiel that spoke to the dry bones to rise again, my mother will somehow talk about sex, and I'll be like, what is the relationship between Ezekiel talking to the dry bones and then sex? It used to be an awkward moment, even if my mother was talking about Daniel in the Lions, then somehow she would talk about boyfriend, girlfriend, and this thing used to piss me off. But somehow, as I grew older, they just believe that I should have sense. But the thing is, peer pressure is not an exclusive preserve for teenagers because there are many people in their 30s, in their 40s, and some even in their 50s who are still pressured to do what they do not want to do. And this is because they believe, and this is because the society has given us its own standards, and because we want to live up to that measure, we want to live up to what the society says is the norm, and a lot of people are ready to let their guards down. A lot of people are ready to do whatever whatever to be accepted. And but somehow these same people will preach peer pressure to their own children. They don't know that they are the ones that need that topic itself. So what really is peer pressure? I have one question for us today. What makes you think that you cannot be pressured to do what you don't want to do? Don't forget that a person who is wise does not become wise all of a sudden. It does not happen overnight. They are wise because they have sat down to understand the principles that run life. They are wise because they put their knowledge into practice. A young person who is wise will not suddenly become wise because of their age. Somebody who has age on their side can only have experience, and experience does not equate wisdom because we have many old people who will still give you the wrong advices. Why? Because they have not really taken time to understand the principles that make certain things work. And this is why you have poor people in their 50s. You see 50-year-old people living in abject poverty, but you find 20-year-olds living their lives. You find 20-year-old millionaires. Why is it so? How come it is that this person who had walked the surface of this earth has not really sat down to understand what could make him rich? And they're just there sitting. Most of the people who beg are old people. Have you noticed that most of the people who beg are old people, and they carry the younger ones to lead them or to usher them into the hands of people who would be nice enough to give them some pennies? So you see that experience will never equate wisdom. It will never equate wisdom. And this is the reason why we have many old people who have been married for 30 years, 20 years, dishing out wrong advices. Let me tell you a story. At some point in my life, I had this friend and she advised me never to be transparent about financial matters with my boyfriend at the time. I said, why? In her words, it was like, men will suck you. was like, what does that even mean? Men will suck you. How much did I even have that a man wants to suck? But this was the advice coming from somebody that had been married for, say, 20, over 20 years. Why? Because experience, even though this person had the experience of marriage, this person had not really sat down to understand the principles that would make marriage work. It's one thing to have to be experienced in something, it's another thing to understand the principles of that thing. You can be on a job for 30 years and still not really understand the principles that apply to growth. A lot of people just want to, I don't know, I don't want to deviate, but a lot of people are in business today. They do not really understand the principles that would make them grow in that business. They're making money. They're just comfortable making more pennies and more money, but they are not growing. So he said that there is a huge difference between having an experience and understand the principles that would make you grow. There are two things. Principles are principles are the same year in, year out. Principles are the same year in, year out because they're created by God. Even before you were born, those principles already somehow existed. A woman who has been married for 50 years but unfortunately has a bad spouse will have nothing good to say about the institution of marriage, because in the 50 years of living with the wrong person, all she this person has experienced maybe woes of anger, anguish, regrets, and all of those things. So this person grows to become bitter. If you go to such a person to receive an advice on marriage, they would surely tell you bad things about marriage. They will surely tell you that marriage is all about endurance. These people don't believe that two people can love each other the God way and make it work. They don't have, it's not in their dictionary. So they will usually tell you, they'll give you an experience based on what they have gone through, not based on what would make it, because they don't even know what will make it work in the first place. So yeah, that's just how it is. Moving on, this thing called peer pressure has nothing to do with age. I do not believe that we should just talk about peer pressure at a certain stage of our children's lives. What I believe is that we should raise them to a point where they become convicted about something, not that we are teaching them not to do something out of fear. For instance, we say don't have sex because of teenage pregnancy. I don't think that's the right thing to say. Or don't join bad gang because you might become drunk or because you might become addicted. Well, those things are the secondary things, but the primary things are because these things will not help you. These things are against the God standard. These things are anti our standards as Christians. I think that's a better thing to do. And we should pray for them to a point where they become convicted by themselves. And I'm going to explain why. The only thing we're doing is making our children learn stuff, which is not bad. But there is a difference between learning and knowing. Anybody can learn anything. I can school you about business. I could school you about real estate. I could school you about education. I could school you about cooking, baking, on all of those things. Anybody can decide to learn anything, including learning about God. And this is why we have atheists who have learned about God. They have learned about God, but He has not transformed their lives. He has not changed anything about them because they have not come to a place of conviction. And conviction is a spiritual thing. When you learn about something, you go through an intellectual process. That's learning. But when you go through a conviction, it's a spiritual thing. It cannot be taken away from you because it makes something more real to a point that nobody can change your mind about it. Talking about knowing and learning, learning involves a conscious intellectual activity, and this is very different from knowing. Now, let me give you an example. I could take you to Sunday school and then teach you about David and Goliath. I could teach you about David and Goliath. I could teach you about Ezekiel speaking to the dry bones. I could teach you about God creating man, woman, creating heavens, creating earth. I could teach you about all these things and you will learn about God. But it does not give you that real life experience to know that God exists. And this is where conviction comes in. You can learn about God and just believe that God exists because you have learned it through, maybe you've learned it in books or maybe your Sunday school teacher. But it will take a deeper level of experience to accept the presence of God and believe that Jesus Christ is real. And that is what differentiates knowing from learning. And I'm bringing this down to our own daily lives. I could teach you about yourself and say you are and give you affirmations. Affirmations could make you ginger to want to stand out, to want to set yourself apart. But it is different from knowing who you are. Knowing who you are sets the tone for you to just become a different person. I'm going to give you an example. The moment you know who you are, your life becomes narrowed. You realize that there are certain things you should not do. There are certain people you should not hang out with. You will not even really need anybody to come and start trying to motivate you or teaching you, because it comes from the inside. It comes from the spirit. It's a spiritual thing that sets you in motion. And this is what everybody needs to come to that deeper level of experience where they know who they are, because it's until you come to this point that you can no longer be afraid of peer pressure. The reason why we are talking about peer pressure is because a lot of people don't even know, do I go this way or do I go that way? Do I do this or do I do that? They are scared and all of those things. But when you know who you are, you know what you want to do. Nobody can really set the tone for you. What sets the tone for you is where you are going to. What sets the tone for you is your master in heaven. And it's because a lot of people do not know who they are. They want to be accepted by the media. They want to be accepted by the people. We now have a category of people who try to have bold face. And the social media has not helped in any way. A lot of people are doing crazy things to be accepted, and it makes no sense to me. Like, see, this thing is just basically lack of confidence. And then we have the category of people who want to act crudely because they want to use their unruly behavior, their unruly attitude to make up for confidence. Let me tell you something, confidence is an aura. If you don't have it, you don't have it. Your unruly attitude will never make up for confidence. See, it takes a lot of strength to say no to certain things. Many people who cannot say no to certain things is lack of confidence. Many people who are always swayed. You're here today, tomorrow you're there. You're swinging to every wave and side of everything trending. That is because you lack confidence. What you need is not bold face. What you need is to come to the knowledge of who you are. The moment you know this, the moment you come to this deeper knowledge, confidence comes from the inside. When you develop this real confidence, you will not need to do anything negative to make up for what you don't have. It's an aura. People would see it, people would smell it. And because they can see it, they would smell it. You will not need to throw in your towel just for anything. And this is why, as you grow older, or should I say, as you grow deeper in the knowledge of who you are, you need to build a system around your life that would protect you from throwing the towel when life is about to go bonkers. And I don't want this video to be so long, so we have come to the end of this video. I want you to share this video as always, and I want you to subscribe to this channel. And lastly, I want you to drop a comment because I want to understand your thoughts. I want to know what you think about it. I really want to know what you think about it. So bye for now. See you in my next video. Bye.